During week 240 of Brada's Branded Thoughts here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, I'm joined by a very good friend of mine, Kachine Alexander, former Hawkeye. Great Kachine Alexander, as we talk about Caitlin Clark's WNBA start, some of the drama on and off the court, their recent matchup with Chicago, plus Jenni Fitzgerald's retirement and Lucy Olsen's arrival to Iowa City. What it all means for the future of the program and the sport that we all love. All that coming up during a special edition of Brada's Branded Thoughts. This is from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Let me introduce you to one of the proud supporters of From the Hawkeye of the Storm, Iowa floor covering down in Bondurant. Now, for the last year and a half, you've heard me talk about this great company in the heart of central Iowa. They've got their Tough Core click together, 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring, great for you DIYers out there. But even if you're just a contractor or you need a different type of flooring, they've got you covered, whether it be tile showers, carpet. Give Iowa Floor Covering a chance to serve you better and serve your flooring needs. Visit them online at iowafloorcovering.com. That's iowafloorcovering.com, or you can give them a call at 515-379-7000. That's 515-379-7000. Thank you to Iowa Floor Covering in Bondurant. Week 240 of Brada's Branded Thoughts here at From the Hawkeye of the Storm. I'm pleased to be joined by a good friend of mine, Kachine Alexander, former Hawkeye great, as we are in the midst of a very fun 2024 WNBA season. And for the first time in the history of the WNBA, Kachine, almost every Hawkeye basketball fan is captivated by what we're seeing on the court. And for obvious reasons, I want to get to Caitlin Clark and the most recent controversy. You and I are kind of in the same boat. We watch as much as we can of this season. I have my opinions as to the timing of it. I wish that it didn't line up when it lined up with the NBA playoffs. I think we've discussed it. I wish the NBA playoffs could complete before the WNBA started, but that's beside the fact. It's good to see you. It's been a while. We haven't talked since Lisa Bluter's announcement. I think we did a post-game show after Caitlin's first game, but the Fever have struggled. Nobody's going to debate that. Is the start for Caitlin and the start for that franchise to this season about what you expected, or have they failed to meet your expectations?
No, I knew the Indiana Fever were going to struggle, just based off of their roster and also based off of last year. So they're still building. So I'm definitely not surprised by that. Caitlin, I knew she was going to kind of be like this, only because you're traveling. It's just a different feeling. It's a different atmosphere. It's a different toll on your body, your mental. It's just different. So I knew she'd be like this a little bit, but I think she is slowly starting not to have so many big dips. Like she'll have a 30-point game and then she'll have like 8. Like, like we're not used to seeing that. So I think she's slowly starting to, have a little ripple. And not so much waves that she was at the beginning. So I think that she's starting to figure it out a little bit.
A lot of controversy on and off the court. You and I discussed in the latter part of Caitlin's senior year at Iowa, how, some comments like Diane Taurasi, her comments come to mind regarding the learning curve we expected for Caitlin Clark. Mm-hmm. You talk a little bit about how some of the older veterans in this league could easily resent the fact that Caitlin was getting as much hype and attention as she was getting. Now she's in the league, still getting that hype, still getting that attention, selling out opposing arenas, home arenas. Are you surprised with some of the, I don't want to call them cheap shots, so we can talk about Kennedy Carter in a second, but some of the extracurricular stuff that's happened, or is that just a result of the spotlight on Caitlin?
Nah, I'm not surprised. No, I think that I will say this. I don't like the refs part of it. I expected the physicality. The refs like obliviousness to it is what is throwing me off a little bit, because you can't tell me that in the game, Kennedy Carter doing what she did not warrant a flagrant one. Like, you can't tell me that's not. You got to go look at that after the game and then have a whole statement about, like, that doesn't make sense. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And there's been a couple other things where I'm like, what? How are we missing this? So I think for me, the surprising part is the refs. How the players are reacting to it or the physicality of the WNBA is not so much what's surprising to me. It's not. It's the way the refs are reacting to it. It's wild.
Why is that? Why do we seem satisfied with their awareness of what's going on here when it seems apparent to everybody else watching the sport?
My assumption is that there's going to be a talking to of some point, right? Because there are a lot of eyes on this particular person. There are a lot of eyes in general, right, on the WNBA there that hasn't been previous. So you got to tighten up. Like, we can't have this lackadaisical reffing. Like, you gotta tighten up. So I think that why, I don't know, but I know that they're gonna get something where people are gonna be like, yo, what are we doing here? At least that's what I hope is gonna happen. I'll say that.
Talk about Kennedy Carter. Let's talk about Kennedy Carter. So the other day, you have this game against Chicago. Everybody's talking about the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. I don't even know. I hate labeling things rivalries when they're not rivalries. Like, what makes this a rivalry other than they happen to face each other in the postseason a couple of years? Like, they don't play the same. It's not like they're matched up together on the court. I don't really know what makes that a rivalry other than the fact that they were in the same draft class.
It's not a rivalry.
But everybody's talking about that. And then the big play that occurred during the game, Kennedy Carter basically hip checking, body checking, whatever you want to call it. It was a dirty play. I don't know that I would go to some of the extremes that some Hawkeye fans and some Fever fans were going to as it relates to the punishment or discipline deserved by Kennedy Carter. I've seen a lot worse as it relates to intensity of hits in the NBA. This wasn't a hit above the neck or shoulders. And maybe I'm downplaying a little bit, but you and I talked about Kennedy Carter before we started recording this show. This is nothing new to her. Let me read some
not at all
history. You just Google Kennedy Carter and
just Google it.
Google her bio on Wikipedia. You'll find out she was a top 5 pick out of Texas A&M. But let me read you just some of her history in the WNBA. In 2021, the Dream suspended Carter indefinitely for, quote, conduct detrimental to the team. It was reported before the suspension that she wanted to fight another player on her team who asked her to improve her attitude during a game. She did not play again for the Dream following the suspension. Now, in 2022, she averaged 8.9 points, 1.9 rebounds, 1.9 assists per game in just 16 minutes per game of action. In March of 23, the Sparks waived Carter and were obligated to pay her protected $86,000 in salary under the terms of her contract. But the LA Times reported Carter had been benched for, quote, poor conduct during the season. Now, NBA great Derek Fisher was also fired as the team's head coach during that same season. Fred Williams, who was the interim coach, did not play Carter for 4 games due to, quote, a coach's decision. She did not play in 2023. So I guess the point is, like, I don't know how you would describe Kennedy Carter, but to me, what happened the other day, Kachine, is consistent with the character. It seems to be present with this player. And to me, like, even without knowing what her background was, I thought this prior to reading up on Kennedy Carter, the move looked like a move from someone who wanted attention. Maybe I'm totally off on that, but to me, it was a move of, hey, look at me. And yes, I get there's probably some growing resentment with some of the older players, more experienced vets in this league, but I wouldn't call Kennedy Carter some veteran that hasn't gotten the recognition she deserves. Am I wrong?
Absolutely not. She's not one of those.
So what do you make of that? Do you think that the retroactive flagrant one was enough? Do you think she should have been suspended? And how do you address this if you're the league? Because you can't continue to allow it with the new face of your sport.
Well, if they weren't going to suspend Alyssa Thomas for what she did on Angel Reese, they definitely weren't going to suspend her. Because what AT did to Angel Reese is worse than what she did. Like she literally grabbed her around her neck and threw her down out of frustration. But that's still a dangerous play, right? So I knew they weren't going to suspend her. That doesn't track. My problem is not so much what she did, because I don't believe in dirty plays. I don't care who you are. I feel like, yes, there's going to be physicality. Yes, there's going to be, elbows and whatever else. But if you are intentionally trying to hurt a player, I have an issue, right? That's like my line in the sand. Even if Caitlin Clark accidentally threw an elbow, or if they was jawing at each other or whatever it is, okay, so then go at her then. Make her embarrassed on the defensive end. You do things like that. But to then just like blindside her, it was just kind of like, oh, that's childish. In my mind, like, that's childish, because what do you get out of that? Like, you think Caitlin Clark's going to be like, oh, let me not talk anymore? Like, no, that's not going to happen. So the purpose of it is, one, your emotions got the best of you, which is a common theme. And you just made a play because you were pissed off, because right before you did it, you called her out of her name. No. So you weren't doing it because you're reacting to her, because you could have done that when she hit you once before, off of when they were, jawing for the ball. You could have reacted then, but you didn't. You waited. So I don't know. Go ahead.
And no, I was just saying, I'm trying to be objective with this. I am not defending Kennedy Carter at all. I would take a little bit of a more of a hesitant approach with regards to the act. Again, I've seen far worse. I guess I keep going back to that. And I don't know that I would say
sure.
It's an obvious attempt to injure. That's where I don't know that I would agree.
My thing is this. The only reason why I say that is because Caitlin was not looking. Right? You came up behind her to do it. So that's my only issue, is because you were blindsiding her. It's not like you were coming from the front, or you guys were doing, like, she had no idea you were there. And so if that's the case, if you did lower your shoulder and she twisted an ankle or tweaked the knee or whatever the case is, because she's not prepared for whatever the hit you're about to lay on her, right? So in that regard, like, you're not really paying attention to what's going on. In my mind, you just wanted to inflict instead of react to whatever happened to you. That's why I say that. Again, was it something that was like super hard? No. But you are also coming from a side where she cannot see you. She cannot defend herself because you're coming from behind her. Yeah. So that was my only thing. That's why I said that's childish. Like, so I can't defend her, but I also know that at the end of the day, the W is aggressive. That's just what it is. Just like most sports, people get hockey, everything else. Like, they're all the same. Sports are sports. So I am not like upset and mad and, oh my gosh, but at the same time, I'm more, like I said, that's childish. That's how I feel about it.
Caitlin is easily still in the top 5 as it relates to trips to the free throw line. As a rookie, that's an incredibly impressive stat. She got the ball in her hands a lot. We understand it. So it's not like she's getting any calls. And I totally agree with you. It's dirty hit. She's not looking. Everybody watches this show regular, that I'm a Mavs fan. I go back to a play during Dallas's 2011 playoff run. And now I'm going to test your recollection of dirty plays in NBA history, Kachine. I think
there's a lot of them. Go ahead.
2011, Dallas is up 3-0 on the Lakers in the playoffs. And the Lakers were the defending champions that year. And in game 4, Dallas is blowing out LA in Dallas on their way to a sweep. And JJ Barea, who was a really important piece to that 2011 championship.
I remember him.
Driving the lane, and Andrew Bynum comes up mid-air. And think about how big Andrew Bynum is compared to JJ Barea.
I remember that.
JJ midsection, like, now that's dirty. Like, guys midair.
Oh yeah, that's extensive.
Exactly. And I guess I'm not saying what Kennedy Carter did was wrong, but like, that to me is that you guys midair, you're dangerously hitting.
Yeah, that's extensive.
So, anyways,
For sure.
Maybe I'm watching too much NBA and not enough WNBA.
That is suspension for multiple games.
Agreed.
Right? Like that's next level, because you could have ended that man's whole career. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
that's extensive. That's why I said I don't think Kennedy should have been suspended. It didn't warrant that. Did it warrant a flagrant 1 in that moment? Yeah, hell, I probably might have upgraded her to a flagrant 2 in that moment because of the intent. You get what I mean? Like, the intent for it is what I would have more so been thinking about as a ref. But I don't know. I just feel like everybody needs to calm down. Like, relax. It's okay. She's okay. She'll be fine. I promise. But everybody just needs to take a chill pill, please.
And by the way,
that's it.
Caitlin won.
And just enjoy basketball. You know.
Yeah, Caitlin won that battle. Like,
just enjoy it and celebrate that. You get what I'm saying?
And guess what? The next time,
celebrate that.
The next
celebrate
time
the win.
The next time the Fever play Chicago, if I'm Caitlin Clark, I'm getting right back in Kennedy Carter's face, and I'm egging her on. This is the game. Like, this is just the game. If here's a player who's upset about a little trash talking because you can't ball with her, I'd be doing it the next time. Look, man, you're gonna hate how many times I reference the Dallas Mavericks as they head to the NBA Finals during this podcast.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Listen, you got Luka Doncic dropping 20 in Game 5 on the road in Minnesota and talking to the opposing bench and to the Minnesota first row. Like, that's what dogs do sometimes. Like,
you can back it up, then you could do whatever you want to do.
Exactly. Walk the walk and back it up. And although the Fever have had a rough start to their season with Caitlin Clark, she is just playing as good as you could expect a rookie to play. And to me, the fact that Kennedy Carter was led to do this, not that it was Caitlin Clark's fault, but to me, that's more of a statement and testament to Caitlin than anything.
You know what my hot take would be? Is that everybody on social media who is talking about the WNBA in a negative light on behalf of Caitlin Clark, or, you know, you guys are going to go back to flying Spirit and like those kind of jokes, you do know you're making it so much harder on Caitlin. Like, you're making it so much harder on her because you're putting a target on her even more, because now they're irritated. Like, stop talking. Like, in their mind, that is how they're feeling, because we're happy you're here, but watch your mouth. That's how I feel like the WNBA players are feeling, because it's like, we've been here. We've been doing this. This ain't nothing new. Like, the playoffs was sold out already. Like, this isn't something that we were already on the rise. I understand that. Right now, Caitlin Angel, this rookie class has elevated it to a whole new world, but they were already still on the rise. So respect that and be happy with the new. Respect the old, happy with the new, right? Like, we can be both. But the Caitlin Clark fans, the bad ones, okay? Now, I'm not talking about the good ones who are just there to, are really putting a target on her back. I would hate to be Caitlin Clark. That's all I gotta say. Because everybody hates you. Everybody you play hates you for something you ain't done. You haven't done anything. You ain't talked bad about nobody on social media. You've given people flowers, their flowers. You've done everything in that sense. But still, people hate you because fans make them hate you. That's got to be a tough pill to swallow. My mindset.
This next segment presented by Spirit Airlines, I guess. What's wrong with Spirit? Hey, listen, what's wrong with Spirit Airlines? I've flown. Don't tell me you haven't ever flown Spirit before, Kachine.
Yes, twice, and I will never again in my life. No, thank you.
Hey, but you did it.
I would rather not go.
The plane,
absolutely not.
It landed safely, so. But I get it. It's the Nickelback of airline.
It's the struggle airline. That and Frontier. Like, no, y'all crazy. I'm not doing it. No.
All right. So
Yeah.
Let's transition. I'm sure we'll talk more Caitlin. We'll get together and talk more Caitlin down the line. Fever did get a win second of the season against Chicago the other night. But how about the news of Jenni Fitzgerald retiring? I know Jenni meant a lot to your career. You have a lot of respect for her. I remember you bringing up her ability to scout. And I don't know that people really, you watch the tandem that was Lisa Bluder and Jan Jensen for so long. And we know Lisa Bluder has moved on. Now this is Jan's program. I didn't expect this, but I also don't know Jenni Fitzgerald. Were you surprised by the announcement, or did you kind of expect that?
Absolutely not.
Departure.
She already retired once. Like, she already was about to leave once. Coach Bluder is the only reason why she stayed on as the special assistant to the head coach, or whatever you want to call it. She was already out the door. She just stayed because of Bluder and to help, with what they were building. So once Bluder was out of there, I knew it was only a matter of time because she was already halfway out of there. Coach Fitz is the brains of the operation. That's what us players like to call it, because her mind, basketball, X's and O's, is like next level. And that's definitely somebody going to miss for sure. Now, I don't know, Abby or, Raina or what they bring, because I don't really know. I played with Abby, so that doesn't, I have no idea what she is like as a coach. But that's definitely somebody they're going to miss for sure.
Where do we see that? I know you said X's and O's, but for a fan watching Iowa basketball heading into the 24-25 season, you're already dealing with the departure of Lisa Bluder. I'm sure some things will look a little different, but where do you think the biggest void or the biggest difference as it relates to Jenni's departure will be? Where will fans see that?
Game plan. Every game plan that we're like, that was a hell of a, I can put my money on it that it was Jenni Fitzgerald. Because she is like the scouts master. Like, she's really good at it. She's really good at breaking down the other team's strengths, weaknesses, how we can score against them, defend them, what's the best way to do that, etc. And so that is going to be the biggest void. And it's weird because as fans, you may not really understand what you're seeing differently. But to people who really understand the ins and outs of coaching, you would understand the void.
Can we talk a little bit about recruiting? You and I have not discussed Lucy Olsen. And I guess the one little bit we've discussed recruiting on the air since Lucy committed was after Lisa walked away. And we did ask the question, hey, will Jan be able to retain everybody? It looks like she's going to. You've got a really talented 5-star Addie Deal from California in the 25 class who has since given her endorsement of Jan Jensen. We've seen the same things out of people like Lucy Olsen and a very talented freshman class. We had Aaliyah Guyton on for an interview here a couple of weeks ago. She is on board with Jan Jensen. I don't think that surprises either you or me. I know you kind of expressed that during our live show when Lisa announced her retirement initially, that this has been a 2-woman deal with the help of a lot of great assistant coaches for some time. But let's talk about Lucy Olsen, because now that it's solidified, she is here. She's coming. She's signed. She is going to be part of Iowa's 2024-2025 team. She's the 3rd leading scorer in the country at Villanova. But someone that people didn't really talk about, Villanova's not been, like, you compared the women's basketball program to the men's program, it doesn't get near the attention. It's not what I would consider a blue blood. So a lot of people didn't even know about Lucy Olsen until she entered the transfer portal and Iowa started recruiting her. What can you tell us, Kachine? What do you know about Lucy's game, and how will that translate to Jan Jensen's team?
Well, yeah, you didn't really know her either. I remember you texting me like Lucy Olsen, and I was like, we really need like a 1 or a 5. But then I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
this kid is a Lisa Bluder kid, is what I said. Right at the time, I was like, she's 100% a Lisa Bluder kid. She knows how to play basketball, and what I mean by that is she is a basketball player. And the goal of basketball players is to get the best shot available. That's the kind of basketball that all Iowa fans love and adore, right? is that. And she is that. She can shoot the basketball. She's shifty off of the dribble, off the bounce. She can pass the ball. She has all of the intangibles that would fit into what we knew as an Iowa offense. I mean, I can't speak for now because I have no idea what that's going to look like. But as far as before, she fit in like the perfect puzzle piece. I just hope that people don't limit the whole Caitlin Clark talk, please. Like, Lucy is her own person. She is her own player. She is her own woman, etc. So next year, please limit the Caitlin Clark talk. She is Lucy Olsen. So I think that she is going to provide us with that star power that I think that we were going to miss. Obviously, Caitlin Clark is Caitlin Clark, okay? But like, I still think that she allows us that. You still got, some pieces there that are your blue collar players who just gonna grind it out, Sydney. So you got players there that could fit around her. I'm still not 100% sure on the whole post thing, but that's going to be a wild card. It's just what it's going to be. Is O'Grady going to have a great summer? Is the new kid from Oregon? Where's she from?
Ava Hayden.
Yeah, is she going to come in and wow everybody? I have no idea. So that's definitely a wild card for us. But I think Lucy is definitely a perfect fit or option for us for next season.
When you look at this team, you mentioned the post position, and we know Hannah Selke played out of position. I think that's fair to say. A lot of last year, it sounds like they've toyed with the transfer portal. They were in on an Arkansas big here not that long ago. It's still somewhat early in the process as it relates to the season. We've got, 5 months before the start of the season. You mentioned Ava Hayden. If you had to guess who steps up at that 5 position, do you think it ends up being Hannah playing out of position again? Is it Addie O'Grady taking a step forward? Do you think Jan Jensen could be comfortable with a freshman big?
I hope it's Addison O'Grady. I can't say much about Ava because I don't really know her. And freshmen, you never know. Like, especially with post players, that's a tough transition. So I'm hoping that it's Addison. She ended the year on a great note. So I'm hoping and praying that it is Addison. And then you have a solid backup in the freshman where she doesn't feel like she got to come in and, produce right away. That would be the best idea, the best situation for her. So I don't know. I hope it's Addison. I really do. I hope it's Addison. And then Hannah could go back to being that 4 player. But I also know that it's going to take me a minute not to say Lisa Bluter. So just give me a second. Jan Jensen is going to put the best 5 on the floor, whatever that may be. So if that's Hannah at the 5 and they have a 4 player and whatever else, then that's what it's going to be. Again, I just hope it's Addison.
And for the record, I brought up the Arkansas big. That was Miriam Dowda, who entered the portal, averaged, I think, 10-6, was a McDonald's All-American back in, I think 2021. She is since committed and is signed with South Carolina. So I don't know that you should be surprised by that. It reminds me of a certain big from DePaul that Iowa was interested in a year ago that ended up going to another SEC power. And I guess, that's my big thing with Jan Jensen, her being a bit of a post wizard, as people consider her to be. How does that change the game? Even though, again, some may say it's sort of late in the portal process. The portal window is long closed. Doesn't mean they can't still go out there and look. I don't know what's available now that Dowd is off the board. But developmental wise, who else do you put your confidence in than Jan Jensen to figure it out with someone? One thing we didn't cover probably well enough or thoroughly enough when Lisa walked away here a few weeks ago, Kachine, we talk so much about how Jan and Lisa are similar. What kind of void does Lisa's departure leave? Because everybody wants to talk about Jan Jensen's ability to develop bigs. What did Lisa Bluter specialize in, and where could you see maybe a bit of a hole there to be filled?
I mean, there's a few holes, but the biggest one and I know this is going to be kind of weird, mental health. And I say that because Lisa's very big on visualizing where you are, what you're doing, seeing it. That's what the whole circle, if you guys are, I'm sure you have seen that they do a shoot around. Like they'll walk around the gym. She always has something to get you locked in, to release your mind, to, take down some of the pressures. Like there was always something that she got up her sleeve. Always something. I still remember to this day that we were in a battle, and it was, I want to say it was Penn State, right? We were about to go into our third overtime. We were exhausted. I remember going to the bench like, holy, I'm exhausted. Another overtime, like that kind of thing, right? And I think all of my teammates felt that. Lisa Bluter came to the huddle. She sat there. She just looked at us. She opened her binder and she pulled out this picture of like a lion, right? Like who has that in their pulled it out, and she was like, I need all you guys to look at this, and went into this whole speech, right? Changed our whole mindset from when we sat down to when we're about to go back out. Like those kinds of things you can't teach. You get what I mean? Like she knew us to know that, okay, these girls are exhausted. Like I need something. You know what I mean? Now, again, I don't know why the hell she had a lion in her little folder thingy, but either way it goes, having a pulse on your team's mental is like, you could get them to do anything. So I would definitely say that. I hope Jan has learned a lot over the years.
Not that this is not to cast aspersions on Iowa's chemistry or the culture at all, but are you surprised no one has entered the portal?
No, I'm not.
But I mean, that's just nature in this sport now. Even like, seemed like every year somebody goes. Shatea Wettering or what's her face that went down to TCU, whose name escapes me.
That one.
People aren't always playing.
Yeah, but listen, the women that were on that team literally had the ride of their lives for like the last year, 2 years, whatever it is. No. They're going into a season with so many uncertainties. Nobody know who's going to play. Like the team is up for grabs in regards to whose team it becomes. And so with that case scenario, why are you leaving? What you leaving for? This is nobody's team. You can go in there and become the star of the show. You know what I'm saying? And plus on top of that, the fans are ready and waiting to embrace a new star. So if that's the case, you have a pretty good chance of potentially being that star or being that person. Or even if you're not the star, the Iowa Hawkeyes always find like somebody to love, right? Like Molly Davis, right? Not the star, but Molly Davis had fans galore. Sydney Falter, fans galore, okay? And she wasn't even playing at the beginning of the season, and people still love her. So I feel like the fans' interactions, how much they ride for the players, has a lot to do with the players feeling at home and safe. Because if the fans were not picking out those players, you think Sydney Falter would still want to be here? If the fans didn't love her when she wasn't playing? Nah. There's a good balance between that. And everybody jokes and laughs and say the Iowa fans are nuts. Absolutely they are. And just like you tell people like they love playing with you but hate playing against you, that's Iowa fans. You can't stand them because you ain't part of them. That's fine. So I think that's part of why there hasn't been much turnover. And even Lisa Bluter's whole career has not been much turnover. There's a reason.
And again, to see that transfer over to the beginning of Jan's official tenure as head coach is quite impressive. My final thing on this upcoming season, and we've got months to talk about this, but I agree with you, Cash, that the 5 is going to be so important because, and this is here you're going to get the perspective from someone who did not play the game at a high level like you. But Iowa got away with not having a true five because they had such a unique dynamic with Caitlin Clark. And if we're not going to compare Lucy to Caitlin Clark, and I don't think that's fair to do, and I don't think she is, that's not fair to her. It's not fair to the team. But if you look at Iowa traditionally, their better years, they've had a really good big, whether it be like a Sonano or a, a Megan Gus, go down the line. I do wonder how they can survive. So again, if it's not the portal, then I am looking toward the two people that we just talked about, Ava Hayden or Addison O'Grady. And that's a lot to put on a freshman. But
it is.
She's a talented prospect, and Jan Jensen's working with her, I'm sure, or will be working with her very, very soon, as all these players are now early June. They're all getting set. If they're not already in Iowa City, they're getting prepped.
They're not there yet, but they will be.
Anything else that I'm missing, Cash, regarding recent information with Iowa women's basketball? I feel like a lot has happened, and I'm glad we could kind of catch up on this. But
yeah,
do you?
I don't think so.
Do you think Iowa will toy at all with the portal, or do you think that they're done?
Do they have a scholarship?
No, but they toyed with Miriam Dowda without having a scholarship. So
we must be missing something, because you're not going to recruit or try to recruit somebody if you ain't got something. So we must be missing something. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but we missing something, because that doesn't logically make sense. Nobody's doing that.
We keep hearing that NIL can make up for players that aren't on scholarship. So if you have an older player and there's NIL money available, they can basically pay the difference of what that scholarship would cost an older player so that you can get another scholarship player in. That is happening in football, and that's got to happen in football, because
what is happening in the world? Okay, well, college basketball.
I know a lot of people that don't like it. I don't like it from a traditionalist standpoint.
That's crazy.
But
whatever. It is what it is. I had a coach call me today.
You had a coach call you today?
Yeah, and telling me they were talking about how the way that college basketball right now is crazy. And I said, I believe you. I do.
Everybody wants you to get back into coaching, Cash, but do you really want to make it?
Listen, it's getting worse. Again, for viewers, you guys are loving it. And I love that for you. But as a coach, it's rough out there in them streets. It's got to be. It has to be.
I remember having Tanaya Davis on during the 2022 postseason run, or 2023 postseason run. She was still a member of the Nebraska Omaha staff. And I remember asking her, like, what's it like right now being an assistant coach with the transfer portal? And I remember her saying, it's just absolutely nuts. Like, you're constant every day. You're calling players and all over the country. You're constantly following these entries into the portal. And now she's a member of the Iowa coaching staff.
Literally following it. Like, every day, it's probably your first thing you do. All day, every day. Somebody is in the portal looking and searching. And then you got to go look up film. The portal was just kind of starting out at the end of my college coaching career. So I know it's crazy. I just know it is.
One more thing for me to add, because we've not been on the air to discuss it. I caught plenty of flack for expressing my fandom of a certain basketball team in the NBA and a certain player who plays for said team. Let me just say this right now, Cash, for everybody listening and for you, Luka Doncic is a bad man. All right. I'm just going to say that right now. We are days away from the NBA Finals starting, and everybody who gave me a hard time about it during the season, take your loss.
You know what, Corey? I might have to change my perspective, because you remember how I said I ain't want Boston to win because their fans are insufferable. I don't know if I want the Mavs to win because you're insufferable at this point. Like, oh my God. That's all we're going to hear next year is you talk. If they win, that is literally all we're going to hear next year is you talking about the Mavs and being like, oh, well, we're world champs and whatever else. Like, I can't. I cannot.
Well, you deal with that tug of war, that back and forth for the NBA length of the NBA Finals. It should be a fun season. I am looking forward to it because I know you don't like Boston. I don't have anything against Boston, but I do think they're the best team in the East. And Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, both of those guys have been close. You have the storylines of a Mavericks team and the resurgence of a veteran in Kyrie Irving. So I'm looking forward to the NBA Finals. Again, I wish the WNBA would have started after that, but that goes without saying. We'll have WNBA basketball until college football season. It's crazy. So, Kachine, appreciate you taking the time. This has been fun. Kind of an impromptu show. And I'm sure there'll be more drama to talk about as it relates to Caitlin Clark and the Fever season. But,
can I end on something?
Absolutely.
Our girl, Kate Martin.
Yeah.
I'm like a proud, I'm just so happy to see her flourish. And Becky Hammon really trusts that woman. She really does. As a freshman is crazy to me. Or not as a rookie, it's crazy to me. The amount of trust. But Kate Martin is a basketball player. She understands the game. She understands the angle. She's always in the right spot. You know how we talk about Kate Martin, the glue, right? And it's translated for her. And I'm just happy to see her flourish in that environment. And I love the Aces, so it just makes it even better. So either way, I'm just happy for her, man. Iowa Hawkeyes, talk about that. Talk about Kate Martin. If you want to write something negative, talk about her.
I don't think you realize how difficult it is to make a WNBA roster. And the fact that
then you're paying 20 minutes.
And it's playing a lot. Yeah, I did not expect it. I'll readily admit that. And
I love it.
Be happier for her because just a great person and what an important part to these postseason runs for the Hawks. So congratulations.
Okay.
To follow Caitlin and Kate's careers and Megan, part of that
and Megan
team. So plenty of rooting interest for the Hawkeyes. Kachine Alexander, former Hawkeye great. Kachine, we'll talk to you, I'm sure, before the season. We won't go that long gap without talking hoops and go Mavs. And my best wishes to you over the next few months as you continue to, I shouldn't say enjoy motherhood. Enjoy motherhood. We talked about the warmer weather. We have. Juliana loves the heat. Get out to the park.
Lots of parks and splash parks and water parks and
right. That's what summer's for. Winters for basketball. She'll learn that soon enough.
Yeah, there's that.
All right, folks. For Kachine Alexander, I'm Cory Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm and another edition of our podcast. We will talk to you next time.